All right, welcome everybody to this special panel. I'm very excited to introduce to you all our speakers for this evening. First off, in case you weren't sure, this is the how to write a personal statement for the Fulbright or the Gilman Scholarship. My name is Dominique. I will be moderating this session. I was a Fulbright ETA in Jordan in 2019-2020, and it was a great experience, but I'm excited for you all to hear about our speakers this evening. Our first speaker, her name is Sofia Nasareth. She's a first-generation college student. She graduated from Portland State University in 2019. She has a double major in communication studies, as well as gender, race, and sexuality studies. She was born in King City, California, and was raised in East LA. Her family is both Mexican and Salvadorian, and it both played a huge role in her career aspirations. In 2017, she traveled to Peru as a Gilman Scholar. She also was self-taught in Turkish in 2018, and by 2019, she earned the Critical Language Scholarship for the study of Turkish in Baku, Azerbaijan. Let's hear some more from Sofia tonight about the personal statement. You're up, Sofia.
Hi, everyone. It's super exciting to be a panelist on here, and I am excited to share with you all some awesome tips on how to write a personal statement. So I thank you for having me here, and I am going to share my screen. 1 second here. Okay. Can you guys see that okay? All right. So to start off, I did my Gilman Scholarship in Lima and Cusco, Peru. So it was divided in those two different cities. And it was a class about intercultural communication studies. So we learned about ways that the more indigenous community in Cusco communicated with Lima and all of the ways that they exchange information and goods. So it was really interesting, and it was my first experience abroad. So I was super excited, and I think that the way that I formatted my personal statement had a lot to do with just why I got the scholarship and why it meant so much to me for me to study abroad. So just to go over eligibility real quick. So you do have to be a US citizen, an undergrad in good standing. And then the most important part of the Gilman Scholarship is that you do have to be receiving a federal Pell Grant. So it is a need-based scholarship. And for that reason, I think that it's even more important to focus a lot on your personal statement and everything you've been through and why it's super important for you to receive this scholarship. And I'll talk more about that on my next slide here. So I have a lot of things that I think I can tell you all about, how I got this scholarship, but I've kind of condensed it down to 5 things. So the first one is, right, to tell a story. So out of thousands of applications, you have to make yours stand out. So in less than 7,000 characters, you need to be able to talk about why you specifically deserve this scholarship. So this is an opportunity to add a little fun to your essay and be a little unique. So become your own storyteller and fill your audience's ears with a passionate or exciting story about who you are or why you want this scholarship. And make sure to connect it with your host country and why being there in a way like helps to fulfill some of your deepest dreams or desires. So number 2, do your research. And I think that this is probably one of the most important parts of your personal statement because your audience wants to make sure, the committee wants to make sure that you really put some thought into why you chose this specific country. So research the location where you want to study. That's really important discuss not only what you can learn from your host country, but what you will be able to contribute to the locals' knowledge and understanding as well. So to me, and I think in general, like it's not just about you wanting to go abroad. It's about what you bring to the table. And, it's a way for you to build mutual understanding between yourself and your culture and that of your host community. So that question of what will you contribute is a really important one that I think you should hit on in your personal statement. So number 3, hardships. So the lessons that we take from obstacles we encounter in our life can be fundamental and do ultimately, make us who we are. And a lot of the times these obstacles can strengthen your essay. So regardless of, how hard your life's been, I think that it's important that you use those difficulties to strengthen yourself as a persona in general. And at the end of the day, like you're still thriving, and those things that you've overcome are super important to talk about and are, helping you one step closer to being a Gilman scholar. So that's pretty incredible. Number 4, so get personal. And this is, a personal statement. So remember that when you're thinking about how to structure it. So we all have a story and we all have a different journey. We've all been through different things. So just, sometimes if it helps you to sit down and brainstorm about things that you've been through in your life, that oftentimes helps me when I'm writing a personal statement. Sometimes we minimize our experience and we think, oh, somebody's already talked about this, somebody's already gone through this, but your story is unique. It's who you are. It's what's made you you. So make sure to talk about it and to honor it. The last one, and it's probably for me, like my biggest thing is speak like you. So when someone's reading your personal statement, make sure that it's a genuine tone that reflects who you are and your upbringing. So there's no right or wrong tone. I think that it just makes your personal statement a little more interesting when it represents you. For me, I'm a Salvadorian Mexican girl from East LA. So I'm always like, best believe I'm gonna bring that to my essay. You're gonna hear my tone, and that's just how it is. And I think that's one of the things that will make your personal statement stand out a bit more, is just, staying true to your authentic self. And then this next slide is more of what I found on the website. So if you go on the Gilman Scholarship website, it does talk about, 5 questions that you should ask yourself for your essay. So, like I mentioned, do you make a connection between your program and the goals that you want to achieve? Do you make a connection between your country? Do you share how you will be academically successful in your program? Do you have you given examples of your experiences, skills, and knowledge? Do you address how this abroad experience will impact your future? And that's another thing. For me, I've always been interested in immigration law, and I've always, used that, tied it into my essays to make sure that gets talked about, because it is important. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about, so the university studies abroad, and I can't say that I speak 3 languages. Sometimes I can't pronounce certain things. So consortium. So the link is right here. There's basically a whole list, 33 tips for applying to the Gilman Scholarship. And it's all of these amazing scholars, and they share, all these incredible tips. So I do recommend, visiting that website, and then just taking it all in. Take as much advice as you can, and I think you'll be great. And that is all I had. So thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. That was a very informative discussion. I hope you all enjoyed it. We're actually going to hear more from Sophia later at the end. I forgot to mention at the beginning that We will be having our Q&A at the end. So after the next two speakers give their presentation, you all will be able to ask more questions. But as you may have seen in the chat, you are welcome to start asking those questions. We will be able to see them and we will try to get to them more towards the end, or you may receive a reply in the chat. So just keep your eyes on the Q&A. I'm sorry, let me distinguish. There's a Q&A specific for questions. So use that for what you have. So now we have our second speaker. Her name is Janika Berridge. She graduated from the College of New Jersey with a bachelor's degree in psychology and a double minor in photography and Spanish. After she graduated, she returned to her alma mater, became an admissions counselor for first-year recruitment. In the same year, she also worked for a nonprofit intercultural exchange organization called AFS USA. She, in 2018, chaperoned a group of 58 Indonesian exchange students from Washington, D.C. to Jakarta, Indonesia. Through this experience, it inspired her to apply for the Fulbright English teaching assistantship in Indonesia, where she later received the grant in 2019. She co-taught 10th and 11th grade students. Currently, she works for a nonprofit education-focused organization based in DC. All right, welcome, Janika.
Hello, thank you so very much, and good evening, good morning, good afternoon, everyone from wherever you are. We're very excited that you're here and that you've joined us. Hopefully you're learning some new things. I heard that the conference has been really fun so far, so I look forward to catching the replay. So I'm here for a few moments just to tell you a little bit more about applying for the Fulbright program. As was mentioned, I was a recent Fulbright grantee, and actually I am a three-time applicant to the Fulbright program. So I know a thing or two about writing the personal statement. So I was in Indonesia in 2019 to 2020 as an English teaching assistant. And here I am with one of my 11th grade classes. If you're not sure who I am, I'm that person in the brown suit on the floor with our students. I did wear a uniform every day. And let me tell you, it was great because I did not have to worry about what am I going to wear today? It was always that brown uniform on Monday and Tuesday and other uniforms for the rest of the week. So in terms of writing the personal statement, this is one of the most grueling processes that I have gone through, just writing the personal statement. But first, let's define the personal statement. What is the personal statement? I think the Fulbright website does a great job at putting it all together in a paragraph form of what the personal statement is. I imagine that you're all able to read yourself, but I did want to highlight a few sections from their summary of the personal statement that I think is especially important. And this certainly ties into what was just shared from Sofia regarding that. So the personal statement should touch upon your personal history, your family background, your influences on your intellectual development, educational, professional, and cultural opportunities, or the lack thereof, that you've been exposed to, and how these experiences have affected you and your personal growth. It is your story, but specifically it's related to you and your aspirations relative to your Fulbright program. So in short, this is your story as it relates to the Fulbright program, and the Fulbright program should be part of your story. You have to make it fit. It needs to fit. So before you start writing your personal statement, there's a lot that you need to do in terms of preparation. And I put it into these three sections. Get to know first the Fulbright program. Obviously, you're applying for this amazing scholarship. You need to know what the Fulbright program is about. What is the history of the Fulbright program? What is the mission of the Fulbright program? Why was it created? In short, as many of these programs, it is to increase mutual understanding between the United States and other nations. So that big intercultural aspect is something you want to keep in the back of your mind. What does it mean to engage with people from other cultures? What does it mean to live in another country? Think about that, write that down, and make sure you keep that in mind as you write your personal statement. So get to know the Fulbright program. Get to know your host country. You're applying to a very specific country for a reason. What is the background? What is the history of that country? What is the culture like? Again, pull out themes from that history and from that culture. What do you like about it? Go deep and keep that in mind while you're writing your personal statement. And I highly encourage you to read the Fulbright country description on the Fulbright page. As different countries ask for different things from the grantees, there are broad qualities in every Fulbright grantee, but some countries are looking for specific backgrounds. And so you want to make sure that you're talking to those backgrounds and those countries are looking for in a Fulbright grantee. And finally, and obviously, get to know yourself. Who are you? Sofia said it really well, and she gave some great examples or some great questions to ask of yourself as you get to know yourself. What are those relevant interests? What are you interested in? I'm sure you're interested in a lot of different things, but what relevant interests do you have as they relate to the Fulbright program? What are your motivations? What are those experiences that you've gone through that have really shaped you? And what are those future aspirations? You want to take notes, start making a word cloud of all these different things. Very important to remember is that once you have all these written down, your interests, your motivations, your experiences, your future aspirations, I imagine there will be many. Find a common theme between all of that. Everything needs to fit together in that puzzle of who you are. How does it fit? I had a friend help me figure it out because I couldn't by myself think of my common theme. And it turned out that my theme was building connections. It was simply that, it was community. And a friend helped me pull that out of myself. So make that connection for your readers. They're going to be reading thousands of essays, and you need to make that connection between your background and your experiences. How do these experiences lead to your present self wanting to partake in the Fulbright program or wanting to apply for this Fulbright program to that specific country? How do those experiences lead to that? And then how does your Fulbright experience fit in the puzzle of your future? How is the Fulbright program the next best step for you as you move on to those next things that you're going to do in life? So it has to fit. It shouldn't be an afterthought. It shouldn't be a one-off. You shouldn't see it as a placeholder until something else comes along. This is that something else. And so you need to make that fit into your personal statement. So that's the preparing stage. If you're sure of who you are and you know that, fantastic. If you need help trying to get to know yourself, I know that sounds silly, but some of us really do need help getting to know ourselves. Ask other people. A great exercise you can do is ask your family, ask your friends, ask your faculty members, staff members that you're close with, perhaps past employers that you've had. Send them an anonymous survey and say, can you drop in here some descriptors of who I am, some adjectives that would describe me in your eyes. And from those, pull out the ones that show up most often. That tells you about how you are seen by other people. So take a look at that. And if you need more examples, ask them, can you actually share a time when I exhibited these traits or when I exhibited that quality? That can really help you get to know yourself. So that's preparing to write your Fulbright statement. And then comes the writing, the hardest part. I will stare at a computer for hours and probably have one word down, and I will award myself and I will take a break. So in terms of the structure, it's very straightforward. Your Fulbright personal statement is just one page. It is single spaced, 12 font with 1-inch borders. There's an opening. Your opening should grab the attention of your readers. The middle should be your experiences, those relevant experiences, and how the experiences that you've gained or whatever you've gained from those experiences are going to be applicable to your Fulbright grant. And a closing that looks ahead. How does this fit in with your future goals? In terms of the content of your personal statement, this has been shared previously, but open with an engaging hook. Open with an engaging story. You need to grab your reader's attention from the beginning. And I thought I would share with you my opening statement. You can't use it because I imagine this is not your story, but just so you understand how I decided to start my story. So for my personal statement, I said, at 7 years old, I exchanged a latrine for a flushing toilet when my mother and I moved from our home island of Dominica to New Jersey. We were amongst those fortunate to qualify for the diversity visa lottery, and 1999 marked the start of apartment buildings, winter boots, and bilingual classmates. that was the beginning of my story, because I feel as if where I am now is a result of having come to the United States when I was 7 years old. And I could have just said I came to the United States at 7 years old, and that is fine, because that alone is a unique experience. But I wanted to get a little bit deeper. I did exchange a latrine for a flushing toilet, because where I lived on my island, we didn't have a flushing toilet in our house. We used an outhouse. Wild, right? But it happens. People still use outhouses. And so that was my experience. I came to the United States and it was very different. I didn't know apartment buildings. I didn't know other languages outside of English and Creole. And here were students speaking Spanish and things like that. So start with a hook, engage your readers. Next, show, don't tell. You don't want to say, I am motivated or I know how to get along well with others. You want to give an example of a time that you've demonstrated those traits. So again, use those examples and be very specific. And then finally, in terms of your etiquette, this is one page. You only have one page to write your story, and there's a lot to say. So make it concise and be clear. Condense phrases that you'll be surprised how much editing down you can actually do when you're writing. So condense your phrases. This is not the time to be very lofty with your words. It was an absolutely thrilling and extravagant experience that wholeheartedly changed me for the best. You don't have the time to say all these things. And so you're going to have to find fewer, but still impactful words to get the same meaning out of it. So eliminate unnecessary words and try to speak in the active voice. This is an academic piece. You want your full personality to come through, but you also have to remember that this is an academic piece. So remember that. And then once you've gone through that, you'll probably have several iterations of your personal statement. The last bit is the editing, right? Tips to write your statement. Start early and edit often. You are going, the statement you start with is not the statement you're going to end with. So do start early, give yourself the time. Different things are going to come through your head as you work on this. Find other personal statement examples. I love reading other people's statement examples, and that's something that I did when I applied, just to see how other people are representing their stories or sharing their stories, the ways that they're writing their stories. I really appreciated that. So definitely search for those statement examples. Get feedback from trusted individuals. You absolutely want trusted friends who understand the program that you're applying to take a look at your essays. Your faculty members, ask your professors to take a look at your essays. Ask people who you know will understand the program and who have that eye for writing. Definitely ask them. You want the essay to be a reflection of you, and so ask others, does this sound like me? But also be a little bit aware of who you're asking and how many people you're asking. You don't want your final essay to be a collection of everybody else's thoughts. You still need it to be true to yourself. Answer the basic questions, yet show your personality. Sofia shared this earlier. You really need your personality to come through. And remember your theme. Whatever that connecting thread is through your life story, remember that and hold that throughout your essay. And also remember the Fulbright mission. You're on a mission. You're to be a cultural ambassador for the United States, to engage with other peoples. So remember that. In terms of resources, the Fulbright website is always a fantastic place to start. There are so many useful tools on the Fulbright website. They host webinars, and they also have links to other colleges' events that are related to the Fulbright program. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at that. And also other university and college Fulbright presentations. There's one in particular that was really helpful. And I will drop that link in the chat after this presentation, but they break down the personal statement in a way that makes it so easy for you to understand. And they give you examples of how you can write more concisely, etc. So those are a few things that I wanted to share with you. And that's it. Thank you so very much for your time and your attention.
Thank you so much, Janika. That was a very comprehensive overview of the Fulbright and the personal statement. I know I even learned from that. And like Janika, to just echo, I also applied more than once. So if you're the kind of person that here's this scholarship opportunity, goes, I really want that, or the Gilman, I really want that, consider applying again after, in case you don't get it the first time. And I also love Sophia's note about you're still a crazy, amazing person. So even if you don't get selected, that doesn't mean you're not qualified. It just means there's a lot of people applying. But that's why you're here, is to learn these extra tips from people who have applied multiple times. So we're running out of time very quickly. So let's move on to our final speaker. And she'll be able to cover both the Gilman and the Fulbright because her name is Saida Sahar Naqvi, and she is a Gilman, McNair, and a Fulbright alumna. She served in Kosovo in 2017 and 2018 for her Fulbright. She conducted seminars at the Faculty of Education at the University of Pristina, where she focused on conflict resolution and countering extremism. She had the privilege of holding seminars with university students from their first year all the way up to their fourth year. She also worked with IGOs and governmental agencies to build curriculum for primary and secondary schools in Kosovo. She also provided mentorship for students who were preparing for their teachers' board licenses and held English workshops for professors to improve their verbal and writing standards. In conjunction with the U.S. Embassy in Pristina, the American Corners Program, and her colleagues at the Peace Corps and English Language Fellows Program, she held community events where she introduced American culture to the Kosovars about the music, the food, and the holidays, etc. Currently, she works in crisis intervention at a nonprofit in Houston, Texas, building capacity for domestic violence and sexual abuse survivors. She hopes to continue working with underdeserved populations in the future. So this lady has a lot of experience. So let's make sure we listen in and go ahead, Sahar.
Hello, everyone. So let me see if I can share my screen first with you guys. And right. Yep. Okay. Is that good? Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to, expound on my great, career with the State Department. That's what I call it, because we're all cultural ambassadors. And, when we're representing United States somewhere else in the world, we literally have to be you're asked questions and you're asked about your experience as an American and what you bring to the table. So I say that with a lot of pride. I was an ETA in 2017-18 in Kosovo. I had the pleasure of serving the Ministry of Education in Kosovo, along with the State Department, building a curriculum for peace education, precisely working on CVE, which is counter-violent extremism curriculum for primary and secondary schools. I was able to, and you can see this is a wonderful photo of an event that we put together as Peace Corps volunteers and English language fellows and Fulbrights for the community at the time of Christmas. So I was able to, engage with young Kosovars, sort of picking their brain on how do they want their society to move forward, building an identity for themselves. That was one of the experiences. And obviously, as Dominique mentioned, I've done Gilman and I've done McNair as well. So talking about personal statement, this photo is extremely important for me. This is the only photo I have of myself and my late grandmother from my dad's side. And when I think of my personal statement, what I think of three major things or three major components of what you should be thinking about: what, why, and how. And I will definitely, explain more as we proceed. But I want everybody to sort of think about an episode in their, when they were little, in their childhood, or something that sort of brings back to who you are as a person today. How did you build your identity? How did you, what is your narrative? So This again are my crazy photos, and yes, that is the Pyramid of Giza in our background. And these are all three of us are Gilman scholars. So what part of the statement, the personal statement, is really content heavy, right? What are we going to write about when we want to write, or we want to tell somebody about our life story or a snippet of who we are as a person? I really liked on the Fulbright website, it actually says that they're looking for a fuller picture of yourself, because a lot of times what happens is that you submit your application, it goes through a committee or a commission, right? If you have one at the university level, and then they make a selection, and then it goes to the Fulbright, like the actual Fulbright people. And a lot of times, like, they'll read these personal statements, and they're wowed by people's experiences and what they bring to the table, right? And other times they're like, obviously, maybe this person likes wants to explain a little bit more, or sharpen their essay a little bit more. So what is lacking between the two sort of essays is what we're going to discuss today. My fellow speakers have already sort of told you about the eligibility and all of that, so I don't want to repeat a lot of the information, but fuller picture, when I think of fuller picture, it really tells me, when I present myself on paper, I'm really trying to build a journey for myself, right? So I start from somewhere, maybe in childhood, or maybe an episode that really, made it home for me, why I wanted to pursue something, right? And that's something, obviously, and in this realm is academic, right? So we're trying to connect like personal event to your academic growth, to something that you will do in the future. So it's literally a chain that you're trying to build, right? It is about your identity, where you come from, what you bring to the table, because each one of us are unique in our own experiences. We have our own language, culture, religion, foods that we bring. So all the sights and the sounds and the taste that you will have, you particular person will have, nobody else in this world has it. And that's what you're trying to portray on that paper. It's really the crux of what will get you the scholarship, right? And in the end, content is about experiences. How do you link your experiences? How do you talk about your experiences? Is it in an engaging way? Is it in a sort of a disconnected way? I really liked what Janika said, that it has to be in an active voice, right? So it cannot be where the reader is like, what? No, it has to be in a way where the reader is still active, actively engaged, and they want to know more. So always, I write, and as a writer, I'm always told that, when you are done writing a piece, your reader should always want to know more about that story, or more about that event, that there's something left. I want to know more. And that's what I really want you to think about when you think about the what piece of the personal statement. And again, as I mentioned, that we're building a chain of events on paper, written in a coherent way that sort of tells us, or anybody tells a reader about your journey, right? So what is the number one thing that you will do? Well, you're going to research, right? You're going to research where you want to go, especially when, both Gilman and Fulbright, it's going to be the same thing. Why are you pursuing, let's say, an internship or a study abroad, a semester abroad somewhere? How does it fit in your own journey, your academic journey right now, like what you're doing, right? Or for Fulbright, if you're trying to go to a country, why are you trying to go there? How does it fit in your overall, picture of things? Is it because just, oh, I like Argentina, so I'm just going to go to Argentina? No, if you, and mind you, you can make a case. You can make a case for about anything in this world, but it has to somehow fit. And that's why this picture of the chain just sort of clicked to me, because I was like, you know, if there was a visual I was trying to present, it would be this. Relevance. What do I mean by relevance? There are you know, events going on right now, like current events going on right now, that heavily impact or will impact the future you know, strategy of the US Embassy. And this is something nobody talks about. This is obviously, this is a freebie for all of you, right? IGOs and NGOs and governmental agencies all literally, and I've seen this happen in Kosovo and I've seen this happen in Dubai, they all come together with a country strategy, okay? And a lot of times this country strategy is a 5-year strategy, okay? This is not published. This is not something that nobody will tell you. This is not on a website. However, what your clue is, you research on that country and say, what are the current events that are going on that sort of go in line with your degree, or what are your research or your ETA-ship, and how it's gonna like fit in. So for me, and I will give you an example, for me, it was terrorism. It was basically Kosovars going to Syria and Iraq trying to fight. And that was sort of my, you know, arena of where I was working with. I had already worked in CVE before. I had already done research in you know, South Asia in terrorism. So how did I link that to peace education and my own passion to connect with young kids in college and schools? And that's what I brought to the table, right? So there are current events going on that you can research on, and you can include that in your community projects and so on and so forth, you know, and obviously in your personal statement, that will make it much more relevant for the embassy or the commission to say that, okay, we want to pick this relationship. It's the same thing. Does it show a cohesive relationship? You know, if you are doing, let's say if you're a music major and all of a sudden you want to go research something or apply for a program that's in economics or what have you, then maybe you can do that. But the connection has to be there, and the reader has to sort of see that connection, right? So that's what I mean when I say the relationship. Okay, let's see. The why. What is your motivation? I know that people like to say, oh, I love to travel, and you know, and Fulbright and Gilman are both great ways of traveling, right? That will happen. However, think about other things that you have done in life. What are your motivations? So my motivation was obviously to provide peace education, right? To connect with returnees. When I say returnees, these are people who were sent back from Syria or Iraq to Kosovo, and they were sort of rehabilitating, right? So I wanted to know their experiences. What were the challenges they were facing? How were their, you know, kids and their wives affected by their decision, which is illegal. What they did was, according to Kosovar law and international law, illegal, right? To go fight in a country that's at war. But how did that affect them? So I wanted to know that, right? So my sort of passion for this was more than just traveling, right? Traveling just came with it. What are your goals? Do you see yourself working at the State Department at some point? How are you going to use this experience, you know, in your future goals? So now what I do is capacity building, and whatever I did for my Fulbright and Gilman and McNair, everything comes in handy, you know, on the daily, right? Because I work with marginalized groups, and I know how to address when I'm addressing certain issues. Like, it has to be culturally specific, right? So if I'm talking to a Muslim client or somebody else, I have to be specific according to you know, their viewpoint. And does it show growth, right? So you start from, let's say you were little and you cover an episode, an event that impacted, that's your opening. And then you show growth. How did you grow while you have been on this wonderful journey of yourself, right? And that's the growth you have to show. Okay, so this is the why. How? Obviously, there are not many of us, we don't like writing. I never liked writing, okay? So it grew on me, right? But there was someone who had to mentor me to say that, okay, this is the way you write. This is the, even like recreational papers, or whether it was academic paper, people took time to mentor me on that. So the structure is extremely important. And if you don't have mentors, please go seek mentorship. That is the most important thing, right? So your structure, your grammar, your syntax. A lot of times, a lot of us who are, who are bilingual, trilingual, we think in certain ways and we write in certain ways, which may not be, the most proper syntax on, on paper, but if it works for you, it works for you, and that is fine, and that's uniquely you. But the syntax has to work. Like, it can't just be totally off the hook, right? So the reader has to make sense of the sentence, right? Okay. So some of the tips that I can give you is, find resources, right? And when I say resources, I don't mean crazy websites and all. You can do all of that. Find what you already have. Your resources are right there in front of you, right? I emailed my personal statement and my other essays, whether it was Gilman, whether it was McNair or Fulbright, to my mentor, probably, like, I don't know, crazy amounts of times, right? And every time it would come, like, something would be read, and I would be so disappointed that, oh, this time I thought I got it correct, right? But just keep going at it. Don't get disheartened. It's okay. But the resources, your parents, somebody who has good proofreading skills, your friends, right? Somebody who would like to take an interest in your growth, connect to alumni. Even after you get Fulbright, okay? It's a great tool to connect to alumni. I found out more information through alumni way before the embassy emailed me and told me where I was placed, okay? So obviously, because I'm a mother, at that time I had a 1.5-year-old child. So I needed to know where I was going, and I needed to know from people who are on the ground, like, how was the experience? What should I prepare for? So connect to alumni. They will tell you things that obviously a lot of times the embassy personnel don't experience, because they're not in that situation. Proofreading, you should proofread and have anybody that you can have access to proofread, whether it's your advisor, whether it's people at the lab, right? Or your mentors or your professors, whoever you can get your hands on, please proofread. Do not feel ashamed to say that, can you proofread my essay? And be genuine, right? If you look at the picture of this puzzle, I really feel it's a two-way picture, right? Because when we're talking about being genuine, I really like that this one piece of puzzle that doesn't really fit into the whole thing is standing out, because it has its own story, right? But you can also look at it from another perspective, that you need to be able to fit somehow into the grand scheme of things. So this sort of picture sort of it portrays like double thing, where you can be like, what is that? But for me, the important point is that you have to be genuine. Your story is your story. Your experience is your experience. Nobody can claim that, right? You just need to know how to put it on paper and how to present it, and that's pretty much it. And that's that. And me being all genuine, here you go, in Dubai, at my Gilman, enjoying. So thank you so much for your time. I really hope that I didn't repeat a lot of the information that was already given to you. And that's about it.
Thank you. Thank you, Sahar. That was very comprehensive as well. Thank you all for sticking it out with us for this near hour long panel. But I do want to give you all some time. We are a little short on time, so we have 5 minutes to share any questions with our panel tonight or this morning or wherever you're at. And so we'll just wait to see if you have any questions. But while you may be thinking of some, my question for the panelists first is, while there's a lot of pieces of advice that you guys shared and is excellent, if you could sum it up, or if you could pick one thing that you think was probably the most helpful to you in writing your personal statement, what would that one thing be? And feel free to go in any order you like.
I'll go. The one thing that just stands out to me is tell your story. I know it's quite simple, but honestly, your story is your story, and whoever you are, that has to come through. That's what they are going to be attracted to as readers, your personality, what you can bring to the program. So think deeply about your story and tell it.
I would say be realistic, right? All of us have limitations to what we can and cannot do, right? I am not a winter person. So being in Eastern Europe in the midst of like a winter was an issue, right? Also, I have a family. So I had to think about these factors before picking a country where I said, okay, this is where I would be comfortable with. So be realistic with, what your expectations are of yourself and the program.
For me, I think I already said it, but I'll say it again. Just being true to yourself and your voice. A lot of the times I'll get people that tell me like, Sophie, like that's not very professional, or the way you type that doesn't sound very professional. And I'm like, dude, if I want to write about dipping my tortilla in my frijoles or in my beans, like just let me, like that's a part of who I am. So to me, that's really important. It definitely makes you stand out. Because it talks about just who you are, where you come from, and that you're not ashamed of just who you are. Be 100% authentic, and that'll get you very far.
Yeah, all of you. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'll just echo what everyone has said. If you think about it, you are your own person. There's no two of you. There's only one of you. So don't underestimate like what they're saying. Maybe some things you may think sound very average could actually be very interesting for the people reading your essay. So the only additional tip I would say is do read this essay to your family. Do read this essay, and I'm pretty sure Janika talked about it too, to as many people as you can. I think someone asked in the Q&A about reapplying. And I know for myself, when I reapplied, honestly, even when I sent in the application, I felt it aligned so much better with I had a little more life experience. I had met a few more people, and I had gotten even more advice, and I got to use what was a disappointment in the first, rejection to just motivate me further. And I think if you're somebody that says, I'm not sure if I really know the future yet for me, I'm kind of not sure what my interests are, go ahead and apply. You never know, like if you don't do it the first time, you apply again, they see that you're motivated, and that may actually help you get it in the end. We have a couple minutes left. Did anyone want to add to that about maybe advice for a reapplication?
Something that is really helpful there, if you're familiar with Slack channels, it's an online tool that a lot of workplaces use or groups use to stay in communication with each other. Fulbright has a Slack group. Every year, Fulbrighters make a applying Slack group. That's a great place to connect with other grantees who are going through it as you are. And so I think that's a great resource just to be able to connect with other grantees and get ideas from other people. And you also have individuals who are willing to swap essays with you. So that's something that could be of help to you.
All right, so sadly, you all, this is the end of our time together. Thank you so much to our panelists for sharing. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of this conference, and we appreciate your time tonight.